Hello, this is Skip Tawby with Mendocino TV on Mendocino Naturally with my guest Doug McKenty and Keith Weiner talking about Measure W on the ballot coming up. Measure W, to create a county charter commission, will be on the ballot in June. And today we have a couple people who are going to tell us what that is, and we're going to ask them some questions. Usually we have a call in, but the phone isn't working today. But in the future, call us in and ask your questions. All right, let's switch it over to Doug. Would you introduce Measure W to the general public?
Sure. So my name is Doug McKenty, and I am running as one of 15 potential charter commissioners. There are 17 on the ballot. The 15 that get the most votes will form a commission. And this is all that Measure W is saying. Do you want to be a charter county, and who are the 15 people that you would like to vote for who will then write the charter? And I want to be really specific here that after the Charter Commission writes the charter, then that charter in a later election will be voted on by the people. So all we're asking for right now is that you give us a chance to write a charter. After the charter is written, you still have an opportunity to vote the specific issues in the charter up or down. So we're just trying to open the door here for this possibility. Now, what a charter is like a mini constitution for the county of Mendocino, and what it does is it creates a legal individual, much like a corporate charter. So Mendocino County will become a legal individual rather than currently it's a general law county, which makes it a subset of the state of California legally. And all this does is allow Mendocino legally the rights that are given to other legal individuals. And legally, it puts us as a county government, as an institution, equal to other state or corporate actors that we're negotiating with. So instead of being a subset of California when we're negotiating with outside actors, outside entities, we're going to be our own county of Mendocino legally.
So it doesn't really change how the county operates. We still have a board of supervisors. We're still organized the same as a county, or it doesn't. Is that kind of a premature question?
Well, I mean, that's just it. So this is stage one. Would you like to have the benefits of home rule? What it's doing is it's strengthening legally the county of Mendocino in the choices that it makes, that we make as a democracy here in Mendocino. We have as much power as the California Constitution allows. Now, once the Charter Commission is elected, then we go into stage two. We do have a lot of leeway as to what the Charter Commission could write into the charter. And this is after Measure W passes. We could make radical changes, or the commission may decide to keep things exactly as they are now, except on paper shift the county from a general law county to a charter county. And the spectrum could be broad, and will probably be somewhere in between. We'll probably make a few changes. We probably won't make radical changes that would be really controversial. The idea that most of the charter commissioners, people who are running that I've spoken to, is we really want to turn this into an exercise in participatory democracy so that the commission will go out, we'll have lots of conversations with the public, and we'll have lots of conversations with other stakeholder organizations within the county. We'll find out what people want, and we'll make a charter that will pass after stage two is done. So here in stage one, we're just asking you to say, yes, we want Mendocino County to have all of the benefits of a home rule county, strengthening our county choices, the choices our county government makes, as much as is allowed in the California Constitution. And we're going to give these 15 people the opportunity to figure out what changes, if any, we may want to see in the way that this county is governed.
And those 15 people don't decide whether the charter gets enacted, they propose the charter to the people. We get to vote on it again.
Exactly.
So we vote for 15 people to create a charter after they've listened to what input we can give them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they propose a charter to the people of Mendocino to vote on.
Right.
And if we vote for that charter, then we're a charter county.
Yeah. So this is what I want to be very clear about, is this is just the stage one. We're asking for the opportunity to write a charter. The charter itself may not be very controversial. It may keep things very similar to the way they are now. All it would do is give the choices that the people of Mendocino County have already made more strength in negotiating with the state and other corporations that come in that we have to deal with just for day-to-day business. And then the people will be able to vote on the charter after stage two. So we look at it as a two-stage process. This is stage one. Just give us a chance to write the charter, see what issues may or may not come up.
Okay.
And then after stage two, the people will get a chance to vote yes or no on the specific issues written in a specific charter.
Let's get personal with Keith. Keith, why should we trust you as somebody who wants to be on this charter commission to come up with a charter for us to vote on?
As a resident of Mendocino County for 40 years, I feel that I have an idea of what's going on, and I can see the larger picture that there's a lot of things that are being done to different counties and throughout the area that might be considered that not necessarily the way Mendocino County would like to go. And I think what Mendocino County would like, or I would feel that it would like home rule and more input to the way it wants to go in the future. Where does it want to go in the future? Does it want to be directed by outside influences, or do we, the people of Mendocino County, want to have some decision-making process on where we are going for that future?
So how does this differ, say, from the current initiative process? If we want to change the law, we can change the law if we need to, but how does the charter county change that process?
Basically, the initiative process where people gather signatures on petitions, that will stay the same. That's not a change.
Okay.
But what would happen if you pass a law or pass an ordinance or measure, such as Measure S, banning fracking in Mendocino County, which was passed with a majority of votes, that is not protected. A measure can be overturned by the state as it wants, so it's not protected. But if those regulations or those provisions are embedded in a charter, the only way it could change is by the vote of the people through the ballot box. So it's more protected. It's like a charter can become like a constitution. It can give more protection, but it can also give the direction toward the future.
I understand, but I guess what I'm trying to get at is, and since we don't have all the candidates for this commission here today, that's a lot of people to vote for when you go to the ballot. And most people aren't even going to know who these 15 people are. So I'm wondering if you could describe a little bit about the composition of the candidates. You know, do they represent geographically the whole county? Who do they represent? And how did they become candidates for this election?
Basically, it does represent the area. There's representatives from Ukiah, there's Inland, there's Fort Bragg, Mendocino. So they're all over. Willits, there's represented geographically, there's representation from the whole area of Mendocino County. And there's a diverse group. We have people that are politicians, educators. Norm Duvall, who was a former supervisor. Scalini, who's mayor of Ukiah, is one of the candidates. And Alice Cooperrider is also on there. Some people might know her from various...
So do you think it's a very diverse group in terms of culturally, politically, whatever?
Well, basically, the way it was put out there, it's all volunteer. No one is getting paid for this position.
Okay.
So it was put out. Those who wanted to, join in on that movement were welcome. No one was excluded. and they were all welcome. So those who joined were those who wanted to do it for this.
So we get to vote for 15 candidates, and there's maybe 17 or 18 are actually going to be running?
There might be 17, as far as I know, on the
17.
So that
17.
whoever, the 15 people that get the most votes are elected.
right,
So it has nothing to do with the percentage or anything.
the top 15.
Okay.
And Doug, you may want to add something to that, or
Well, that's about right. I mean, I think most of the people on the commission who are running are independent. We have at least one conservative or libertarian mind as well. I don't think it's a real left-right issue. The concept of strengthening your community's democracy, the notion they call home rule in the California Constitution, I don't see it as a left-right issue. The way that we've been trying to frame it from the charter project point of view is, do you want a one-size-fits-all county government, which is the one that the California Constitution just gives to, as a blank, kind of a blanket organizational structure, this general law county to every county in California, or do you want a custom fit county government, local government that works well for the particularities of Mendocino County? That's what the real question is about for Measure W. I mean, do we get this custom fit government that is then also empowered with this charter legally to then enforce, again, in negotiations with other states or other corporate actors that may come in and negotiate with the state as our own legal individual? So not only do you get this customization of our local government according to the will of the people who live here, but you also get that custom fit strengthened to the maximum amount allowed by the California Constitution in terms of the leverage that we get legally in this potential negotiation.
So on the surface of it, it does sound like who could be against this? But today, letter from the editor, from the Employers Council of Mendocino County. They're looking ahead about what might be in this charter beyond electing the charter commission. And they're raising certain kind of concerns and fears. I'd like to just ask you to respond to a couple. We're going to read a quote. They've decided to actively oppose this charter project. And they say it is clear the group's main motivation behind forming a charter county is to start a public bank utilizing county treasury funds to finance the startup of the bank and invest in low-interest loans that will purportedly benefit the citizens of Mendocino County. They say, again, quote unquote, it is illegal to use county treasury funds in the manner in which the charter project of Mendocino County has illustrated. So that's just their first claim. We'll get into the rest of the letter, but they don't substantiate their claim that it's illegal to use treasury funds, but they do bring up a good question about, well, what if this charter commission proposes part of the charter includes a public bank? They, for some reason, are very opposed to that concept, it appears. How do you answer that kind of concern?
So this has been a very complicated campaign to try to wage from the point of view of the charter project, because not only do we have Measure W, which is only about, do you want to be a home rule county? Do you want to be a charter county? And then we have candidates that are running as individuals for the Charter Commission. What the Employers Council in this article got confused about was that some of the issues raised by a few of the charter candidates as issues important to them, they got confused that that's what Measure W is about. So some of the charter candidates have come out in favor of adding and including a public bank in the charter. But these are questions that the entire Charter Commission, this is what we call Stage 2, after Measure W is passed, after we've solidified who the 15 members of the commission are going to be, then those 15 people are going to have to get together and discuss, and this is Stage 2, what specific issues may or may not end up in the actual charter. And again, the people are going to be able to vote on the actual charter after stage 2 is complete, at the end of stage 2. So if a specific issue like the public bank does get into that charter, then the time for that debate is at the end of stage 2.
Well, these guys are trying to pull the rug out from under you before you get to stage 2.
Well,
it
it's
sounds
just
like.
a confusion about the process, and we take as much responsibility for that because we've had to learn how to really clarify the messaging here, which is that this is a process, and it needs to be a long process that involves as many people, not just the 15 charter commissioners, but once the charter commission gets together, figures out how we're going to make decisions, how what issues may or may not be included in the charter, then, like for example, if an issue as large, complicated, potentially abstract as the public bank, if the entire commission starts to think about putting that, and this again is in stage 2, into the actual charter, well, we have a lot of, that's going to require, a business plan and talking to a committee of bankers, that really know about banking. So that's why we shouldn't even be having this conversation right now.
Well, you may not want the conversation right now, but the conversation is happening.
Well, again, they're confused about the process.
I don't think they're confused.
I'm not sure. I mean,
that's my personal opinion. I think, this is pretty typical kind of an approach from the Employers Council in my experience. They say a couple other things, and maybe Keith could answer some of the other concerns.
But I'd like to say first
go
that
ahead.
Measure W only asks, shall a commission be elected to propose a charter in a Mendocino County charter? It has nothing to do with, there's nothing in it. It's like an empty box. There's nothing in it. But they can bring up the potential, but that's not Measure W. And
Well,
that's coming up, that might come up later, but it might not. It might be part of the charter, it might not. So, just to address that issue, that's a second phase, and whatever goes into the charter must be approved by the voters. So, but that's not Measure W.
No,
Measure
but,
W is
the
just
Employers Council,
Right.
for whatever reason, they're making
Right.
their arguments out here.
Absolutely.
There are other
Skip, I want to be a little bit clear about this. I truly feel like the Employers Council, once our messaging becomes more clear, I think they'll vote for a charter county. I don't understand why they wouldn't. They're empowering.
I can only speculate on why they would.
They're empowering their own people and everybody in Mendocino County by voting yes for home rule. And
Maybe that's what they don't want us to. They don't want to empower the people to make a decision about things like whether to form a public bank or not. That's something that I think they're afraid of. And they may change as they see the future developing before their very eyes. But like you say, it's going to take some very strong education, and some real facts about, having a business plan. But like you say, that's stage 2.
Stage
I want to
2,
get
right.
back to some of their other complaints.
Yeah.
Because I would hope that they might come out and change their position if you guys can clarify it. They're talking about
Exactly.
the most important reason, quote unquote, to not support developing a charter commission and forming a charter county is the cost. The county's general fund would have to pay for all costs associated with forming and managing a charter commission. Then they get into the cost of special elections, et cetera, et cetera. So they're coming out, pretending to be wanting to save some money is the reason that they're opposing this. Is this going to cost the county money to have a charter commission, to have this election, to have these volunteer charter commissioners write a proposed charter?
The Charter Commission itself is unpaid. They're all volunteers, so there's no cost in that department. And as far as a special election, a charter election can be either a special election or a general election. And I would assume, and Doug can confirm this too, that most of the commissioners would not want that extra expense and would have it on a general election time when they're having elections anyway. So as far as that comment, it's going to cost $150,000 or $100,000 more. That's not true. It'll cost as much as a regular election anyway. It would not be an added expense to that.
So this isn't going to cost the county any staff time or money to pay the commissioners because they're volunteers?
The commissioners are volunteers.
And the commission has no source of revenue of its own? Other than contributions?
at this point, and that may change, but at this point, that's
Yeah, I mean, my feeling about the operation of the commission is that we would ask the county to give us a room somewhere to hold meetings. And then I think that we would be utilizing county council as a legal advisor, but county council, that's their job. They're already getting paid. So the process really shouldn't cost any money. I do want to be clear, the California Constitution states that when the Charter Commission submits the finished charter to the county, to the Board of Supervisors, then the county has 88 days to hold the election to pass the charter. So it is a potential possibility that the Charter Commission could decide to do this at an irregular time, and the county would be obligated to hold a special election. Now, I think as Keith and I agree, and many of the charter commissioners agree, that our goal currently in our conversations that I've had so far with the potential charter commissioners is the November 2017 ballot. So we'd like to be able to submit the completed charter in August of 2017. That would give the county the 88 days before the November election, which they're already going to hold. That's a regularly scheduled election, and they would be able to put the charter on that ballot, and that, since they're already going to pay for an election anyway, then that wouldn't be of any extra cost to the county.
Right, so it sounds like the Employers Council's way off base on this costing the county money.
Well, again, they're correct that if the Charter Commission does, for whatever reason, choose to turn the charter in earlier, then the commission could force the county.
Yeah, but that's a one-time expense for an election. There's no expense for the Charter Commission.
Right, and I honestly, I can't imagine the Charter Commission making that decision. I don't know why they would. I'm just trying to educate the public as to the process and why the Employers Council made that statement. But again,
well, we'll try to get them on air next time we have another show.
I'm looking forward to having more conversations with them.
I've heard, there was an editorial, I guess, and I didn't read it, in the Press Democrat.
Ukiah Daily Journal.
Or the Ukiah Daily Journal.
I'm not sure about the Press Democrat.
What was their concern? What was the problem with that?
Well, again, in that article, I'm afraid that there was some confusion as to some of the issues that may have been important to a few or one or two of the individual charter commissioners. And so they came out against issues that may or may not wind up in the charter. So we're just trying to educate the electorate as to this process. Stage one is just, do you like the idea of strengthening our county's decision-making process by creating this home rule charter? It's not about issues that may or may not end up being in the charter. That's phase two. So I'll be happy to debate the issues that are in the charter after the charter is written and during that campaign, which will probably happen before the November election 2017. So that's over a year away before we're talking about issues. Let's talk about, do you want to strengthen our county's negotiating position with other state and corporate actors by creating a county charter? That's the question.
What other counties in the state are charter counties? I mean, we're not the first to do this or try to do this.
There's 14 other counties. San Francisco, Sacramento, Tehama, Alameda, and there's some other ones too. I can't remember the name. I guess I have a list over there. I can read them.
Yeah, and you can go on MendocinoCountyCharter.org and find all that information. Okay. The 14 counties that are already chartered.
And they all have different charters, pretty much?
Yes, very different. They vary. Alameda, for instance, in their charter, they wanted more mandates for recycling. I mean, you can have.
So that was important to them.
That was important to them.
So that's kind of, you're talking a lot of different ingredients in the potential charter itself. Is there anything that's off the table? Can the charter include anything?
Well, within the parameters, but again, whatever is put in there, it's always a proposal. And the voters have to approve it, no matter what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I can say the California Constitution specifically states that charter counties have to include at least 5 supervisors. So in the county governing body, there have to be at least 5 people.
Okay, so we already fit that model.
There could be more. We'll have to. That's something that's on the table. I
So
don't know that
the
we're-
Charter Commission could look at how the county is organized and say, well, we need 10 supervisors instead of 5.
Sure.
And then the people would get a chance to vote on it.
Exactly. And then the Constitution also specifically states that the county sheriff, the county DA, and the county recorder have to be elected by the people. We can't make those appointed by the Board of Supervisors.
Which is the case now. The sheriff.
Exactly,
they're all elected. So
exactly.
that doesn't change.
Right.
That's off the
So
table.
that's off the table. But basically, I think everything else, other than the fact that we have to conform to the basic rights and the rest of the California Constitution, we can't be in direct contravention to what's already in the California Constitution. We're still
So when
obligated.
if this commission is elected and formulates a proposed charter, before we get to vote on it, is that charter vetted by the state?
The Secretary of State has to file the charter. And I actually believe that happens after the people vote on it. Once the people vote on the charter, it's been approved, then we give it to the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State has to file the charter now. If they decide not to file it, that would be an interesting legal question to whether or not they're in a position to be able to do that or not.
Okay, so there's some uncharted territories that we might get into here.
And it could be, I mean, they will review it and they will compare it to what's in the California Constitution. So sure, if they came back and said, well, this is unconstitutional, then yeah, we'd have to have that conversation at that time. But I can pretty much say that the people who are running for charter commissioner, or at least I can speak for myself, I mean, I'm not looking to pick a fight with the state by having something radical outside of the bounds of what's already in the California Constitution. We're just trying to create a document that helps Mendocino County, working within the parameters of the California Constitution, to have a customized government that works better for us here.
So let's get personal again with you, Doug. Why should people vote for you? Who are you? Why should we trust you
Well,
to formulate
help
formulate a charter for us?
That's a great question. I mean, I always fall back on the story about being the host of Open Lines on KZYX for so many years and talking politics with thousands of people that called in over that time period, and just hearing the frustration in their voices when they're talking about trying to orchestrate political change. I mean, whatever their particular issue was. The frustration over and over and over again with, well, what do I do? Write my congressman in Sacramento.
Yeah, sign another petition.
I mean, I think the government, the Congress's approval rating for the last decade in Washington, D.C. has been like 10%, 11%. So I get calls on Open Lines being like, what do we do? I don't approve of what Congress is doing. And over the years, my only response was finally, the only thing you can do is help your neighbor, work in your community. We can make local change. And with local politics, you can call your board of supervisor, your supervisor. You can get to know them. They can't get away with taking $50,000 in corporate money or from a very wealthy individual to slip that line item into that ordinance, because we know what's going on. We can see them. We know them.
Yeah, the scrutiny is pretty intense around here.
And so at that time it became, my desire to strengthen our local communities to empower themselves as much as possible. Then I got involved with Measure S. We had some community rights language in Measure S.
That was
which
the anti-fracking?
helped to do that. Yeah, exactly. And then that, again, is what led me into this charter movement. I mean, let's strengthen our local democracy, because in that way we can actually influence our political lives in a way that is very difficult to do with the guys in Sacramento. I mean, if you can't afford a lobbyist, then how do you influence Sacramento? And then, of course, Washington, D.C. is on the other side of the country. How do you even start to try to affect political change with those guys. I mean, this takes a full-time job and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and most of us have to work. So,
So the Charter Commission is a way to deal with this political frustration.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the impetus behind my involvement. Wanting to be able to provide a vehicle for people to make political change in our community, to strengthen that political change against, what the state or the feds or other chartered corporations can do. Let's put ourselves on an equal footing when we negotiate with those guys, and let's empower ourselves to be able to make our own choices and empower ourselves with the ability to make those choices stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned as an example of one of the charter commissions decided that recycling was very important. Give me some other examples of other charter counties. What's important in different places?
Some of the other counties, I think it was Tehama County that was saying that they wanted to protect their water.
Protect the water? That's pretty admirable.
And,
it's like, wait a minute, doesn't the state already do that for us?
Well,
not necessarily, yeah?
Not necessarily. That's where home rule comes in. They wanted to protect their water.
Well, yeah, it's a huge issue here. I just read a report from Moms Across America. They were funded by somebody who lives here to test 10 local wines from Mendocino, Napa, Lake County. They all had residue of Roundup in the wines, organic wines included. Less residue, but still some residue. And I thought, whoa, nobody's ever tested the water or the wine or the beer in America until just the last year. Whereas in Europe, they've tested for these chemicals for years, and they've banned things like Roundup. So does a charter county give us the ability to fight against these huge corporate interests and state bureaucracies that are pretty much looking the other way when we're being poisoned? Are we going to have some help by being a charter county in fighting these forces?
It's a possibility, along with the glyphosates, or Roundup as it's commonly called, are prevalent in many, many sources.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
In fact, it's even GMO crops like wheat are often sprayed with glyphosates to increase their drying time. And so
they spray them right before harvest.
They spray them right before harvest so they can dry faster. So people, a lot of these things that are happening, that we have an increase of asthma, we have an increase of lots of different illnesses that weren't really prevalent before 1997, before they started using it. But in terms of a charter, can home rule protect against some of those things, or at least make some statements about it? And the answer is yes. But again, whatever goes into a charter must be approved by the voters.
So the voters could say, for instance, in Mendocino County, any product that is made in Mendocino County has to be tested to see how pure or impure it is. We could say that?
As long as it does not conflict with a state law.
Well, we're just talking about testing and transparency.
As long as there's no state law against it.
I don't know of any.
I don't know of any either, but I'm just saying along those lines.
The state won't allow Mendocino County to control the use of herbicides, but there's nothing that says we can't demand that the people that use the herbicides test their product before they sell it to us to see if it has residues in it.
Or even labeling it. I mean, that's a possibility.
Yeah, label it. Drink up Roundup.
Drink up Roundup. But yes, the charter can include language like that.
Okay, so the charter's got
there's a lot of flexibility. It's like an open box. You can put anything you want into it, but it has to be approved by the voters.
So yeah, the Charter Commission could say, yeah, we want to do this, and do this, and the people could say, well, that's all fine and dandy, but we don't buy it, and they could vote it down.
Yeah, yes. I'd like to be very clear again that because we can talk about the potentials of what might go into the charter in stage 2. So when we're just talking about the concept of would you like to be a chartered county, then let's go back to choices that the people of Mendocino have already made. The anti-GMO Measure H, the anti-fracking Measure S. These are choices that the people of Mendocino County have already made. And fortunately, the county hasn't been sued over either of them. But in the case of a lawsuit, if Monsanto came in here and said, we want to grow, a GMO product in your county, and we don't think that you have the right to tell us that we can't, so we're going to sue you over Measure H. If we got sued over Measure H right now as a general law county, we would have a very weak defense in court, especially if people in Sacramento suddenly decided they wanted to pass a law saying, Monsanto could come and grow GMOs here. If we change into a charter county, a home rule county, then we have a very strong argument in court saying we are our own legal individual that has the right to make choices for ourselves. In fact, all of the news that we've heard about corporate rights that a lot of people in Mendocino County have been frustrated about, my gosh, these corporations have all these rights. Well, if Mendocino is chartered, then the county of Mendocino gets those same rights. So when corporations come in here and says, the Supreme Court gave us all of these corporate rights, we can show them our charter and say, well, guess what? We have those rights too. As a general law county, sorry, we don't have that argument in court. What these are called, this is called tort law. Uh-huh. It's a tort is a financial claim or a claim of restitution when things go to court, and what being a charter county does is strengthen our negotiating positions in terms of giving us these rights to these tort claims. That corporations now have these rights. So if we want to be able to negotiate with them as a legal equal, we need to shift from being a general law county, which makes us a subsidiary of the state of California, to a charter county, which, just like the California Constitution or any corporate charter, creates a legal individual that has that equal negotiating power with other chartered organizations.
I want to get back to the election a little bit. The charter commissioners are elected, and they win if they don't have to get 50% of the vote. They just the 15 that get the most votes are elected.
Right, because
so there's going to be a charter commission.
That's the vote. That has to get 50% over.
So the people get to vote on two things this election: whether there should be a charter commission, yes or no. If 51% of the people vote yes, then 15 of the people that are running as commissioners will be elected.
Right.
Based on who gets the most votes.
Right.
Then my second question, this is again to stage 2 a little bit, but it has to do also with how the Charter Commission, if it has any funding. Say, can the Charter Commission propose that there be new taxes in the new charter? And if so, does that require a bigger vote to pass the charter, like 2/3 instead of 50%?
I don't know.
That's an interesting question, and I would assume that it would, just like any other specific tax requires 2/3 of the vote. My guess would be that the Charter Commission will avoid that.
I suspect.
And then that would be something that would have to be negotiated by the commission with input from the county council to figure something like that out should we decide to enter into that realm. But I am not.
But it's not
I don't
off the table. It's
that.
just like, again, it's a big empty box that you can fill with pretty much.
Right. And that would be a unique situation. I don't think any of the other 14 charters have specific taxes in them like that. So it would take a little bit of studying up to figure it out. But I don't foresee that as being an issue. No one has advocated for any kind of a taxation scheme being a part of the charter.
And tell me a little bit about what's coming up in terms of your organization for people to find out more about the commission and the people that are running for the commission and the whole charter concept. You have like a series of town halls planned. Well, how can people find out more information? Where can they go on the web? Who can I talk to? What meetings?
Well, actually, there's a meeting today at the Senior Center, Redwood Coast Senior Center, from 3 to 5. People can come there. It's on 490 Harold Street. And that's one way. And also there's a website, MendocinoCharter.org,
Mendocino County Charter.org.
MendocinoCounty.org, so people can go there. And there's a Facebook page. They can go to the project Mendocino County Charter.org.
And are there other
on
meetings
Facebook.
coming up besides the one here in Fort Bragg today? You got some more town halls?
There's one tomorrow in Willits.
Willits
I
tomorrow?
think that one starts at 3, from 3 to 5. I think it's at the Grange in Willits. I'm not exactly sure, but you can check it out on either the
Right,
Facebook
on the
page,
Facebook page.
Charter Project of Mendocino
It's
County
Charter Project
Facebook
Mendocino,
page,
right.
or Mendocino County Charter.org on the web. All that information is up there. And then we have,
Right.
I believe, one more on the 23rd. But Paul Cienfuegos is our keynote speaker both today and tomorrow.
All right.
So if you want to catch him, then try to make it to one of those two.
And since the other candidates aren't here, can you just give me a little synopsis of who's running, or some of them? Just talk about some of the other candidates.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure. I'm pretty happy that the people who chose, a lot of the people who chose have already had a lot of experience in local politics. We've got Norman Duvall, who was a county supervisor for many years. We've got Els Cooperrider, who was very active in the environmental movement in the 90s. She helped work on Measure H and is actually currently working on Measure V.
Right.
So she's got a lot of experience. We've got Steve Scalmanini, who is the current mayor of Ukiah. He's been on the city council there for the last 3 years. So those are three of the people that we've got that are currently running. A lot of us grew out of some of the Occupy movement. There are quite 3 or 4 people that kind of started with that back in 2008, 2009, and then started feeling like local was the way to go, and that the county charter would be a good idea. And some of the public bank advocates that started and are running, they started with the going local on the banks. What was that? The day where everybody took their money out of the
Right.
big five and put it in, and they actually got
Yeah, the
millions
credit
and
unions
millions
did really
of
well,
dollars.
yeah.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
So
Maybe
we've
they
got a few
funded that
people.
campaign.
Robin Sunbeam, who ran for county recorder last year. She's been working a lot on the charter project, and she kind of grew out of that big bank divestment movement. So, fortunately, we do have a lot of experience that decided to run for the commission. I'm happy to say that we did. That 17 people did sign up. We want to make sure that it's a full commission, and we're hoping that the people who are elected, really do represent the full spectrum. Like Keith said, it's geographically diverse. Willits, Ukiah, all up and down the coast. So, we're hoping that, for me, the most important thing is that we all can really work together. And I think it's going to take us even a couple of months to formulate how we're going to go through the decision-making process.
You don't really have like a rule book or anything.
Yeah.
It's like, you talk about home rule, it starts at home, right?
It's one of the things that makes this campaign challenging is showing people that, well, here in this stage 1 process, it's an open book. Just give this commission a chance. That's all we're asking for. Vote yes on Measure W, and then we'll see what the commission comes up with over a very long process of interaction with all of the different people in the county.
Yeah, you're
trying
gonna have
get
to
as
win
much
over these
information.
employer councils.
Yeah, I know, and I'm working on it. I think I can convince. I still think I can convince them. I think they
Good luck.
got off track on some of the issues, and when we really solidify our messaging, because there are many issues important to the people at the Employers Council, and those very same issues, could find their way into an initiative.
Yeah.
Or, we'd be happy as the Charter Commission to speak with them about the issues that are important to them that we could put into the county charter, during that phase 2 process. So I think once they understand the process, then they could get excited about empowering the county because the county, I assume, occasionally makes choices that the Employers Council does approve of. So
Yeah.
why would they have a problem with empowering those choices? You know?
We'll find out.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, basically, and the hope is it's a bipartisan issue. It's for everybody in Mendocino County.
Yeah.
And all of their ideas, council included, everybody's ideas can be at least addressed, included, at least heard. And that's what we need to do, is to hear the ideas that are out there.
Well, it's like, the Charter Commission not only provides an opportunity for input and for everybody to be heard, but it provides for the opportunity to the people to decide in an election.
Exactly.
It's not a supervisor who's deciding. It's not a bureaucrat who's deciding. It's not the Employers Council. It's not your organization. It's everybody gets to vote, up or down.
Right.
Right.
One of the things that we're working on is this internet service called wind tunneling, which actually then anyone can access from their phone or their computer over the web that helps facilitate group discussions.
Uh-huh.
Basically, that's what it's designed to do. So this is something similar to what Iceland did after the 2008 collapse. When they decided to throw their bankers in jail and write a new constitution, they went straight to the people over the internet.
Really?
And got as much information as they could to rewrite their constitution according to the will of the people. So, one of the things we're going to do is try to get people involved online through this wind tunneling program to make the process as participatory and as easy to participate in as possible. I mean, we'd like to have as many face-to-face meetings as possible around the county
Yeah.
as well. Face-to-face, obviously superior, but this wind tunneling program has been specifically designed to help facilitate group conversations.
Well, that's great, because this studio, Terry designed this studio so that we can take phone calls and Skype calls.
Right.
We can watch people on the big screen and they call in. I'm going to extend myself a little bit, probably get a little flack from Terry. But this studio would be a great place to have these kind of conferences.
Sure.
I think he said we can have up to 24 Skype calls simultaneously in a conference call where people from all over the county could be talking about whatever the subject of the day
Right.
is and figuring this stuff out.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
So these
In
new
fact,
technologies are available. I'm glad that they're going to be used to help us figure some of this stuff out.
one of the things we've been discussing is that the Charter Commission is going to be subject to the Brown Act. So all of our meetings, and we'd like to be able to have conference call meetings, because getting together face to face from all of us all around the county are going to require the availability of the press and the public to be able to be
Well,
there.
that's another thing about this studio. We have a conference call here. It's all archived.
That sounds like a plan.
It's like it's total transparency.
We'll have to negotiate.
We're not going
with
to
Terry.
volunteer it though. It's only $150 an hour, so
Yeah,
it's a real
well,
deal.
we can't. We're not costing the county any money on
We'll
this.
find a
so.
sponsor for it.
Yeah,
But
maybe
you know what
some-
I'm saying? It's like things like this studio and things like these new technologies
Yeah.
on the internet make it possible for democracy to really
Exactly.
work if given the opportunity.
And that paper right there is what we're passing out in terms of handing out at the town hall meetings.
Let your voice be heard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it tells you how to log in, chime in.
Skip, there's another thing that I wanted to make clear because I've been hearing some opposition, or at least some questions that from people who fear that the Charter Commission is going to be some kind of another layer of bureaucracy, or in some way expanding government. So one thing I'd like to be clear about is the Charter Commission is only formed to write the charter. After the charter is passed, then the Charter Commission is disbanded. And also, it's highly likely that in conjunction with the supervisors and the current county apparatus, that the charter could be used to streamline county government so that it actually eliminates some of the
be
waste,
wonderful.
or some of the old baggage that's back there in the county code. I mean, these are things, again, that the commission is going to have to be looking into during the phase 2. But some people are leaping to thinking that the commission is some other new layer of bureaucracy that is expanding the size of government.
The commissioners have no power. They're here to listen, basically.
Yeah, and then it's just about writing the charter. Once their job is done and the people vote on the charter and pass a charter, then then it's disbanded completely. So no fear of that. If anything, I would foresee the opposite happening, forming a more streamlined county governmental organization.
And we're getting close to our time here, and I wonder if Keith, you want to chime in with anything else that we haven't covered today?
One thing I'd just like to mention, in the old days, you used to say, think local, act global. But I think now it's think local, act local. And I think that's one of the things we want to do is bring those ideas locally and act upon them. And home rule and more voice to the people locally, I think, is a good idea. And I'd certainly be, supportive of that. And I used to work on Measure H. I've worked on Measure H back then, passing the banning of the GMO agriculture in Mendocino County, and worked a little on Measure S. And so I've had some background in some of the Mendocino politics that were happening back then. But the main thing is I think the charter can really be a step forward to help protect the county, the families, and our future.
Let's leave it at that. That was perfect. Thank you, and thank you. This has been Skip Tawby with Naturally Mendocino. We'll see you next time.